Hello, this video got taken down by YouTube 20 hours after I posted it. I wasn't breaking any rules. The reason for taking it down, they said my content was intending to sell certain illegal or regulated goods. This is incorrect. This is completely false. I've never once tried to sell drugs on the internet. That's so stupid. This video that you're about to watch is a trip report. It is a story about an experience that I had, and I wanted to share it so people can learn from it and avoid the things that happened to me. So I looked at the guidelines to see if I broke any rules, and it says displaying of hard drug use. I was not showing any drugs in the video. There were no drugs consumed in the video. I wasn't on drugs. So because I have to re-upload this, please help me beat the YouTube bots. Give this video a like right now. Smash like, leave a comment, and then hopefully more people will get to watch the video before anything else happens to it. If anything else does happen, I'm not going to post it again on the channel. I'm going to have to find a new website to post it on. But for now, enjoy the story. I'll pass it over to Jason from the past.
Hello. Oh, what up, dudes? I'm back from Ozora. So there's one drug that I mostly did out there, and that was 4-ACO-DMT. I've done it before. I've never spoken about it on the channel. I've only dabbled with it twice, and the first time I tried it, I combined it with 2CB. Maybe Drew did a trip report on it. I don't know. In my last video, I mentioned Trip Journal. They sponsored last video. These guys were very helpful with my Ozora thoughts because I needed this, and I didn't realize I needed it so bad. I was able to write down everything that happened when I was on every substance that I did out there, and I also treated it like a journal. Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm grateful to Trip Journal for giving me this, and everything that happened, I managed to write it down. Because when I was at Ozora, I didn't do any sit-down or handheld stuff, talking to camera. It was mostly me documenting the festival in a more professional way than I did last year. Instead of reading the journal notes, I'm gonna try and tell you everything that happened off the top of my head. A pre-warning, one of the trips got bad, and that's the one we're gonna focus on. The YouTube employee that is reviewing this video, there are no drugs in this video. I'm not on drugs. I'm only talking about alleged drug experiences that I had a week ago. I don't promote the use of legal or illegal substances. Please don't take them. Eat apples instead. They're better for you. Okay. So please use this story as a cautionary tale. Don't do what I did. I'll get into the story in a second, but you'll see where exactly things went wrong and how it could have been prevented. So yeah, we started off, we took 1.4 grams of mushrooms in a heart-shaped chocolate. We did it as a camp, and I went to go poop. When I got back, Mowgli, my new friend, German friend that I just met, I got back to the camp and I could see in her face that she was already kind of spiraling into a bad place. Although the dose we took was quite low, it's still a dose of mushrooms, so anything can happen. What mushrooms do is they open up your heart, they allow emotions to flow. People like me that build up walls and suppress all these emotions. Most guys do it, and I'm sure girls do it too. We suppress emotions and don't really communicate. The mushrooms kind of break all that down. First off, we were both tripping, so everything looks different. It's our first trip of Ozora. Mowgli is getting overwhelmed by everything around her. There's a lot of people moving about. There's a lot of moving parts to Ozora. We decided to go somewhere that would have been quiet and get away. She trusted me to trip sit her, so we broke off from the group, went off to go find somewhere quiet.
What is your intention to say in this moment?
I just want to give a brief overview of what happened.
Actually, my biggest thought about this trip was that I have to think more about my trips after that, because I tripped out when it started directly, because I didn't let the trip become my trip how it was last year, and it was 1 year time I didn't took shrooms. I stopped my bad trip when it started with rescue and stuff and just bringing me down, and in my head I was like, trip, stop it, and I was down. And because this trip I didn't let the shroom do what it had to be, it started again. I took the shrooms, I get on my trip, and it was not, I lost my anchor or something. I was directly lost in this trip. There was no point coming out of this trip. I was directly in a coming out trip. So it was, for me, the best intention is that you have to think about the trips after that, and you have to work with them.
Integrate.
And not to go in another trip without
facing the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my biggest intention in
Integration.
what I've done.
That's, yeah, you got to integrate everything that the mushrooms tell you from the previous one. Yeah. So she was just continuing a bad trip from a year ago. We didn't really discuss anything before taking these things. We thought we're both psychonauts. We can handle these anything. So we didn't really discuss. We didn't really have any intention going into it.
You said to me that the biggest problem was that we didn't talk about what we are afraid of and what we are afraid on our trips.
Yeah.
Because everything I was afraid of came in my trip, and you wasn't able to handle this.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know what's my afraidness.
Yeah. That's been my problem with most bad trips that have happened, or when I've been trip sitting other people, is we don't discuss what could possibly come up and ruin it for them. So I didn't know any potential triggers that could set things off. We hadn't discussed it for either of each other, so that's probably the best thing to do as a trip sitter, is discuss with the person who's tripping what might set them in a bad direction and what can help. Next day we did a bit of acid. I'm not going to talk about it, doesn't matter. Move on to the next bit. 4-ACO. There was a guy selling 4-ACO that he made himself, and 4-ACO DMT is 4-ACoxy NN dimethyltryptamine, also known as synthetic mushrooms, for 4-ACO DMT. It's a synthetic indole alkaloid molecule of the tryptamine chemical class, according to Psychonaut Wiki. There's not a lot of information about 4-ACO DMT. There's not a lot of trip reports on YouTube. It was first synthesized by Albert Hofmann in the 60s, but then wasn't studied really ever. So 4-ACO DMT is chemically similar to psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. And that's why the visuals and the feeling you get on it is almost identical. I would say that there is a difference, but it's very hard to notice the difference. Kind of similar to comparing 1P-LSD with regular LSD 25. They feel the same, but they're chemically altered slightly. There's no reports of anyone dying on this. As with most psychedelics, you can't overdose on them, or it'd be almost impossible to overdose on them, I think. But again, there's not enough research, don't know. So for dosing 4-ACO DMT, 10 milligrams is equivalent to about 1 gram of mushrooms. So doing 40 milligrams or 50 milligrams would be the equivalent to 4 to 5 grams of regular mushrooms. So it's very easy to overdo it. Use a milligram scale if you're going to do this. I don't recommend anyone tries it. Belongs to a group known as substituted tryptamines, which work on the serotonin receptors in the brain. Is any of this information useful? Probably not. I just wanted to cut back to this bit so I could pronounce 4-ACoxy, because I didn't know how to pronounce it in my last clip. Okay, back to the story. So 4-ACO DMT, I've tried this before. First time I tried it was in California. I did 2CB at the same time as it. Very, very weird visuals, very, very futuristic. A lot of grid patterns coming out of everything. It's mushrooms without the body load, basically. Go sneeze.
Sneeze. Bless you. Now you don't have to sneeze. Magic. Magic, and it sticks in your nose now. I know it. That's my magic.
I was waiting for the satisfaction. So I've done 4-ACO DMT twice in my life, once in California and once at Ozora 2 years ago. Never done it really in high doses, so I found some. The guy had made it himself, and then it absorbs pretty quick, kicks in about 20 minutes. The first day trying it, I did a tiny amount. Warm chest feeling, eyes wide open. Everyone is more friendly, I think, because they noticed that I'm tripping. So that was my tester dose. Yeah, I did a small amount, very small amount, probably less than 10 milligrams. Again, I was just eyeballing it, I don't know. The next day, I dosed 20 milligrams, or what I thought was 20 milligrams. I don't know how much it actually was. I was eyeballing it. So I wrote, it came on like a 4 gram of mushroom trip, so it came on really strong. We were at main stage listening to some like side drumming, and I got that static, warm, fuzzy feeling in my head where it kind of engulfs you with love. If you've done high doses of mushrooms, you'll know the feeling that I'm trying to convey, but I can't really think of the right words to describe it. Just fuzzy static, and it just takes over your head. So I was going to eat some mushrooms with Mowgli, but I did 4-ACO first and then I was going to do mushrooms after. About an hour or two in, we went for a walk and I bumped into people that recognized me. One of them said, hey, you're V1I, right? For some reason, being called V1I spun me out. It tripped me out because I wasn't expecting it. And people don't call me that Ozora anymore. They call me V3rd because V3rd because that's my new username. When I was called V1I, I didn't talk about drugs at all, so it's just unusual being called that. People that follow me, encountering me while I'm tripping, is the most confusing and uncomfortable thing. Usually, sometimes it's lovely. It all depends on what mood the person who's talking to me is in, because they project everything onto me. So she was with a group of friends that didn't really say much. We started taking pictures together with flash, and there was like 100 people around. And I haven't even seen the pictures, so if you're watching this and want to show me what the pictures look like, I'd like to see how confused I look in that moment. Anyway, that encounter is over. I didn't really say much. I started getting tightness in my chest because I was feeling anxious. I looked over to Mowgli to try and get out of the situation. And we got out of that, and then a couple seconds later, another guy stopped me with a bigger group of people, and was just I don't remember what he said to me because I was too anxious in that moment to really communicate with people. It's a weird thing to be encountered by a stranger that knows a lot about you and knows you by name, but you've never seen them in your life. I don't get anxiety ever, except for when I'm tripping, and I have encounters with people that know me. That put me in a weird mood, so we went back to main stage. I wasn't enjoying it. Also, my friend Stefan, who died, he showed up for a moment and like kind of shocked me and made me cry a lot. The combination of the sadness and the anxiety made me just want to go and get my hoodie so I could hide away in my hoodie and be in a little bubble away from everybody else. So I told Mowgli, who was trip sitting me, that I need to go to my hammock to get my hoodie. The hammock was only like 10 minutes away from where we were at main stage, so I thought I could do it. It was nighttime. I decided to do the one thing you're not supposed to do, which is walk away from your trip sitter. But I did it because I thought I wasn't even on that high of a dose. I wasn't hallucinating that hard. I thought I could handle it.
And it was my big problem that I let you go.
So I get up to the art area where the circus is. There's a big open field, which is kind of dark. There's no lights on it. I'm walking across that field to get to my hammock, and two guys come and stop me. They ask me, these two guys, they were Hungarian, they didn't speak very good English. One of them did all the talking, the other one just kind of stood there. They were both holding beers, one of them was wearing sunglasses at night, which was strange. And he was asking me, how many days was this into the festival? This was Wednesday, so this was day 6 of the festival. He's asking me, do you know where I can find any MDMA or LSD? And I said no, but I could probably help him find some. They were both standing on either side of me. So I said, if we go on a little mission to get my hoodie from my hammock, then I can probably help him find some. And they were like, they were down for this little adventure. While we were walking, they were saying things like, we've been looking but can't find, maybe we don't look hard enough. It's not Hungarian. Can't do Hungarian accents.
Why do you have to?
I don't have to.
Make it very
They were just saying a bunch of lines that sounded rehearsed. His English was terrible. It took me like a minute to figure out that they were Hungarian. And because I was in a suggestible state, I was on mushrooms, I was more inclined to help these people rather than just saying, no, I can't help them, which is what I should have done. They followed me for a short while. Yeah, they were saying they'd been looking for LSD but couldn't find any. But LSD is like, it's like water, Ozora. It's everywhere. These guys didn't particularly look like trippers. Alright, so these guys, they're standing on either side of me, walking either side of me. The one on the left isn't saying anything. The one on the right is just saying these rehearsed lines. I can't really remember exactly what he said, but it was all very suspect. It took me a while to realize what was going on. They were basically undercover cops, Hungarians, and they weren't trippers. They were not trippers. They were not people that do drugs. It was all a facade. The energy they were giving off while we were talking, I could feel that their intentions were bad. But it took me a minute of speaking to them to figure out what was going on. And by then I'd already told them yes, I could help them. When I realized what was going on, I was like, sorry, I can't help you. I'm lost. And then I just turned around and started walking the other way. And they were making these angry like grunts and muttering Hungarian stuff, and then they disappeared. They just vanished into the darkness. I thought they were still watching me. My movements were strange. I was kind of zigzagging. I had some drugs on me, so I threw the drugs into a bush. I went back to my camp. I made sure they weren't following me, but on my way back there, it looked like people were hiding in the shadows watching me. So I thought that something was going to happen when I got to my hammock. I get to my hammock and there's someone's hiding inside of it. Someone's in my hammock, holding the sides over the face so I can't see who it is. So I start panicking. I'm in panic mode now because I think that there's 3 undercover cops. Two these two that stopped me know who I am, and they've been watching me the whole fest, and it wasn't just a random stop. They were trying to get me. So I got my hoodie from my hammock, ran back to where my tent was, and on the way back, everybody that I was encountering or recognized, it looked like they were all in on this conspiracy. They were all kind of patrolling and waiting for me to pass and communicating with each other. No one was actually doing this, but my brain was in panic mode, so I thought that there was a conspiracy out to get me, and they were waiting until I was in a suggestible state before they did it. So I thought, they didn't get any drugs on me. I didn't take them to any dealers. I haven't done anything illegal. The only other thing is if they are out to get me because they know my YouTube channel, they saw me come through the airport, I don't know. The only other thing they could do is plant drugs in my bag. So I went back to the tent, I got my backpack, I ripped the padlock off of the tent because I couldn't see, because my torch was inside, I couldn't see the combination. Packed up my bag, did everything in complete darkness. While I was in there, it felt like everybody in the camps around me were watching me. They were all in on it, and I thought, like, how big is this conspiracy? How many people are undercover trying to get me arrested? And then I started thinking about all the videos that I posted, and I had no access to the internet, so I couldn't like private anything or delete any videos. I'm glad I didn't have access to the internet, because I would have deleted everything. Because I was in such a panic that I thought, this is it, it's Big Brother's finally got me. They've been waiting for the right moment. So I thought back about all the videos that I made that could potentially be illegal. Luckily, I haven't shown myself taking any drugs on YouTube. There is no video of me taking any drugs, so I haven't filmed myself doing anything illegal. I just talk about stuff.
What you're describing is actually my trip. How many people are undercover here?
Yeah.
So how many people are watching me right now because they know? And I was like, fuck.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people that are watching this that can relate, because it's a common thing to think. Because when you're doing something illegal in a wide open public area, you don't know who has bad intentions. You don't know who's working for who. It's always a thought. Someone turned a car headlight on that shone through the camp, through the tent. The car was like a couple feet away from me. I don't know why they did that. It definitely happened. I didn't hallucinate it. So I kind of froze, and I realized that they can see. They couldn't see. I thought that they could see through the tent and see my silhouette, see what I was doing. But I realize now that all they could see was the tent. Because how would they see through the tent? I could see them because they were showing. Before I left main stage, I was already at a tipping point. I knew if I did any more, I was going to do more mushrooms. I knew if I did any more, I would have tipped right over, and then everything would have spiraled out of control. So I didn't take any, but instead I left my trip sitter, and everything spiraled out of control. While I was packing my bag, a storm started brewing, so there was thunder coming in, humidity got really intense. The rains are about to start, and I knew that when the storm comes in, it's my chance to get away from the festival. I was convinced that I was gonna get arrested at this festival, so I packed my bags, I disappeared into the woods, I made it to the toilets were dry, the rain started coming in, the lightning was so strong that it blew out the power. I've never seen the power go out at Ozora. It went out for a second. I was like, this is perfect, this is my chance to run away. There's not gonna be anybody that will be able to see in the dark, so I have a lot of stuff, so I'm trying to figure out, what do I get rid of at this point? So I threw my hat, which we just painted. I threw my hat in the toilet because it was slowing me down. I threw my new harems that I just bought in the toilet. I threw my pipe. I threw my LSD reagent kit. I threw away a bunch of stuff because I wanted my bag to be smaller. I was going to throw everything in there. All my clothes, I was going to throw them all in there because I thought, I want to be able to run. Luckily I didn't do that. I was wearing a pair of shorts and my hoodie. While I was in there, it sounded like people were mocking me. They knew that I was hiding in there. They were like, he's in there. Where'd he go? Or stuff like that. It sounded like they were saying that, but it was just my brain interpreting the sounds that I was hearing into English phrases. There weren't a lot of people speaking English at the festival, so it was definitely not, I wasn't hearing the lightning's cracking. I'm like ready to run, waiting for the right moment, and then I sprint out of the toilet. I still need to go back and get my hammock, and also the drugs that I threw away were attached to my house key. So I figured, if they find my house key with the drugs, they're gonna be able to pin it on me still. So I had to go back and get them. So now that I had a torch, I climbed over like a restricted area fence. I went up a tree, hid my bag in a tree. The rain is really heavy at this point. I run back across the festival, go to where my drugs were, find the drugs, bury the drugs in a hole, get my house key, go back to the hammock. The guy is no longer in my hammock, so I don't know what all that was about. I don't know who was in my hammock. I'm sure it was just some guy tripping out and wanted somewhere to hide. I get back to the hammock, and then I pack my hammock away in the dark. There's a lot of staff members kind of sitting around doing nothing. It's all very suspicious. Everybody that works for the festival is just standing around as if they're like looking for me, and they've all got walkie-talkies too, so every time I passed a staff member they would be saying something on the walkie, and I thought it was about me. The Ozora layout, I'm going to put it on the screen here. This is Ozora from above. Ozora is surrounded by cornfields in the middle of nowhere in Hungary. Ozora is actually the name of the village that it's based in, and basically all the land around Ozora is cornfields, sunflower fields, woods, and more cornfields. The only road is the one that goes in through the entrance, but I ran out the back end of Ozora, near the lake, and I just ran through the corn. So while the lightning's going off, I think I see torches, people moving around. I'm being proper ninja, got all my stuff packed away, and I'm like ready to run in the corn. Everyone with a torch, I'm like waiting to make sure that they're not like a cop or staff, or I don't know. I think that everyone's looking for me. There's like cars driving around really slowly, and it's all very suspicious. So I start running through the corn. I had a friend, the second year I went to Ozora, he couldn't afford the ticket, so he went through the corn to get in. And I remember his story going through the corn. We found him a couple hours later. He was soaking wet. He didn't know how to get to Ozora because the speakers weren't on yet. There was no music, so he had to just try to find it in the dark. And he said that he encountered like dogs in the corn and stuff like that, so I was prepared for anything. His mission a couple years ago is what made me realize that it was possible. So I started running through the corn. I go through the first cornfield, probably took me an hour. I don't know how long it was, but it felt like forever. And then in between each field was a patch of woods that I had to just run through. And I was doing everything in the dark because I thought that people would have seen the torch. And I saw lights in the distance that looked like people walking towards me because I was still tripping. And being in this adrenaline-fueled state made the 4ACO kick in harder. So my brain was in like million-mile-an-hour problem-solving mode. I thought the only way to get out of here is just to walk or run directly away from the lights in the sky from the festival and all the sounds. And if I see any lights, just go the opposite direction. So I didn't really have a clear path. I was just kind of trying to get away. My thought was, if this was a conspiracy and the cops knew who I was and they were trying to get me because of the YouTube videos, I needed to hitchhike out of the country. I couldn't go to Budapest because they'd stop me at the airport. I had to get out of the country so that it was out of their jurisdiction. I wanted to get to a road to hitchhike in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night, during a storm, with my backpack and everything. Because I was soaking wet, I couldn't stop for any moment. I couldn't stop and stay still because I was gonna get freezing cold. So I just had to keep moving. I went through cornfields, sunflower fields, woods, nettles, spiderwebs. I went through everything in the dark until I eventually found a clearing where there was no corn, and I could finally just like take a break. My phone wasn't working, so I couldn't use Google Maps to figure out where the nearest road was. I heard some vehicles really far in the distance, so I just walked in that direction. I was walking for 4 or 5 hours until the sun finally came up. And when the sun came up, I was coming down from the drugs. I realized that what I'd done really silly. I'd acted on a conspiracy, and just the encounter with the undercover cops was enough to make me spiral without telling anyone where I'd gone. I told Mowgli I'd be back in 10 minutes, and I just didn't come back. I ran away. The storm had passed. I got naked and laid all my stuff out in this field, and I fell asleep on a hay bale for an hour. And then this is what I recorded at the hay bale. I took 20 milligrams of 4-ACO DMT, and now here I'm at. Ozora is 6 hours that way. I'm feeling really stupid right now. I'm not gonna see any of my friends again now. This is it. It all started when we left the main stage. We went to the top of the hill, and a bunch of people that follow the channel were trying to take pictures with me. And it was giving me a lot of anxiety because I was tripping. It was like nighttime. It was just drawing a lot of attention that I didn't want. I couldn't shake that feeling. We went back to the main stage. I couldn't get rid of the feeling. I told my friend Mowgli that I was gonna go get my hoodie and my backpack so I felt less anxious and I could like hide in my hoodie. And all the way back to my hammock, 2 undercover Hungarian police tried to arrest me They were obviously very sneaky about it. They were asking me where I could find some drugs. I realized that I should probably get out of here. There's probably a conspiracy here. I'm probably being targeted. I'm a high profile figure. Largest psychedelic channel in the UK. Obviously Hungarian police know who I am. Although I'm not selling any drugs, I'm still a threat. And then I realized maybe Mowgli's in on it. And all her friends. So I went and got my bag. And I ran away. I ruined my shoulders. I can't really lift my arms much more than this. Because my bag is very heavy. That's the update. So because I didn't find a road, I didn't get out of... I didn't manage to escape from the Ozora corn. There was just too much of it. So I didn't bring any water either. So I knew that the only thing I could do is go back. It was the only sensible thing to do. It was daytime now. It was getting really hot. And I wanted to tell people that I was okay. I didn't have any service, couldn't contact anyone. So I walked back. And I'll insert some footage of the walk back, kind of the thoughts I was having. So I took a nap here on this hay bale. I'm dried out most of my stuff. Only thing left is like my hoodie. I have two options here. I don't want to walk straight back the way I came. It's too difficult. I went through so many woods and sunflower fields and cornfields. I just don't want to do that again. Luckily everything's dry now because the sun is out. My other option, which is what I was doing originally, was just get at it, find a road, and then hitch back to Ozora. Or hitch somewhere that has Wi-Fi, and then I can communicate with someone at Ozora. Because my phone won't work out here. No matter what I try, it won't work. I accidentally called the cops twice. It's so annoying because they're the reason I flipping left Ozora. There's just so much suspicious stuff going on. I broke Mowgli's tent because I was trying to get my stuff out and there's a padlock on the tent and I couldn't see, so I snapped it. I just want to say sorry for breaking a tent and just disappearing. Because I told Mowgli I'd be gone for 20 minutes. Like, Ozora is the only place I feel safe tripping because it's a psychedelic gathering. And now I can't even feel safe tripping there. So it's not even worth going back, but I just want to see... I didn't get to see any of the acts that I came here to see. And I'd like to see Mowgli again. Hopefully she's not another undercover cop. And hopefully this entire thing wasn't a setup. Just get that feeling. I just get that feeling that I can't ignore. And it's usually my intuition telling the truth. I didn't bring any water with me out here. So I am gonna die if I don't find a plan. I can hear a road. That was what I was listening to the whole time. But I just don't know how far away it is. This is so dumb. See, now I'm not so annoyed at myself. Because this walk is like really nice. And I'm doing it alone. In silence, just listening to the birds, the bees and the bugs. It's all good. Like, Hungary is actually a really nice place. Really beautiful place. It's just a shame that the cops are such scumbags. Like, disguise themselves as regular people, begging for some LSD. Like, they wouldn't even know what to do with LSD if it was staring them in the third eye. So last night I remember coming down there, up there and then across the fields. I'm almost back. I'm just thinking about like a really cold juice, because I haven't drunk anything in like 12 hours. Cold juice, really nice. Alright, just to give you a sense of scale, there's the festival. I finally see it and hear it. I've never seen it from this angle before, but this is a field that I crossed last night in the dark, in the rain. There was a lightning storm happening. I crossed this because I thought I was being chased. I'm sure it wasn't, I'm sure it was just the trip messing with me, but I ran all the way through this thing. It's hot. So I get back to the festival and I contact Mowgli, tell her I couldn't trust anyone because I still didn't know who was undercover and who wasn't. I thought that when I left Mowgli, someone had texted these cops and told them that I was on my own now. Something, I don't know. My brain, none of this makes sense now, but in the moment it all made complete sense. And I wasn't like tripping balls. I wasn't on a high dose. It just took one trigger for me to, well, it was actually a series of triggers. The two fan encounters that were uncomfortable and the anxious feeling that I was getting, and then getting away from my trip sitter. and then someone in my hammock, and the undercover cops. It was just a combination of things that just pushed me over the edge. And if you watch my truffles trip from Amsterdam, I'll leave a link down below. I did 44 grams of truffles with 3 trip sitters, and the same thing happened. I tried to escape from those trip sitters because I thought that they were undercover cops. The same thing happened. So if you want to hear me talk about that, link in the description. It's too long to really get into now. And the reason that all of this happened, I figured it out now finally, is that a few years ago I did a trip with my sister. We did mushrooms in the mountains. While I was in the mountains, I left the group. I left the group to go watch the sunset on my own, left all my stuff with them. I was up on top of the mountain, looking at the stars, watching what I thought were UFOs, but it was actually just stars that were still, not moving at all. And then it was dark. I sat up off the ground and realized it was dark. And then I had to make my way back to where they were. Didn't have a torch, didn't have my phone. It took me a while to get back. When I found them finally, my sister had called the cops and told them that we were on mushrooms, told them where we were. She thought I'd fallen into a quarry and died. So we were trying to get an ambulance, a helicopter ambulance, to come out and get me. Luckily, I got back to them. We called the cops back and told them that I'm fine. Don't come. But it was too late. So we get down the hill. There's a cop waiting for us. He knows that we've taken mushrooms. So he's asking us some questions. He recognizes my sister, luckily, so he was kind of sympathetic. He knew that my car was at the bottom of the hill and he wasn't going to let me drive on mushrooms, which is good of him because I wouldn't have been able to do it. He took us back to our friend's house. When we got there, our friend's parents started arguing with him, and I was on a high dose of mushrooms, so I started bawling my eyes out, crying, getting very emotional. My sister's keeping her composure. The cop eventually leaves the house. We then have to deal with our friend's parents. Just being in the back of a cop car, on mushrooms, not really understanding what is going on, left some sort of trauma in my head. So now I fear authority when I'm on mushrooms. It doesn't happen on other substances. I don't fear them in my sober life either. It's just mushrooms. So whenever I do mushrooms now, I always have that thought in the back of my head that cops are going to intervene at any moment. Because I wasn't expecting it. I watched a beautiful sunset on my own, came down the hill, and all of a sudden the cops knew where we were. So that's why the past 2 bad mushroom trips have been police related. Cops are my trigger, I suppose. So if I encounter them while I'm tripping, it makes me spiral out of control. And it's hard to tell when someone's an undercover. These Hungarian guys were most definitely undercover, but they didn't know who I was. I realise that now. It was just a random stop and search. They didn't search me either. They just wanted to know if I could take them to someone that had drugs. Because the Hungarian undercovers, they're there every year. They're quite easy to spot because they're big, muscly, angry men that don't say anything to anyone. They don't participate. They just stand around, and they're always in groups. But when they're actually trying to bust people, they're in duos. I see them every year, so I should have been more alert. But because I was under the influence, I didn't really expect it to happen. One thing you shouldn't do at a festival is just go anywhere on your own, because usually there's no way to communicate with your friends. You just have to have a meeting point, and then you go from A to B and meet up again. Safety in numbers. So if you're in a crowd or at a stage, you're going to be fine. No one's going to try and bother you. It's when you go off on your own and look the way that I do, you're going to get stopped. You're an easy target. They probably had no idea who I was. There's no reason they would have known who I was, because I'm not a big time drug dealer. I just talk about drugs on the internet, so I don't know why I get so paranoid about it. It's just always a lingering thought that what I'm talking about is illegal. Anybody with any kind of money or power can stop me if they want to. And there's constantly things happening to my channel that is scary. Like they're trying to prevent this kind of information getting out. So could this whole experience have been prevented? Yes. All I had to do was stay with my trip sitter. Okay, something I could have done better was taken everything that I would have needed for that night in a bag and then had my bag. Because this is my trip bag. If I had everything in here, then any situation that can happen, I would have had the things to deal with it. The first mushroom trip that went bad with Mowgli, I had everything. I had pistachios, I had dried bananas, I had water, I had everything in my bag that I would have needed in any situation to kind of fix things if it went bad. Because I didn't have my hoodie and I was anxious from everything that had already happened, I thought that I could go get it on my own. I should have gone with Mowgli. It's not Mowgli's fault though. It's my fault for it's no one's fault. We couldn't have predicted what happened. But anyone that is considering doing any kind of drug or psychedelic, you need a trip sitter. It's vital. And luckily for me, I didn't make it to a road, because otherwise I would have hitched anywhere or got hit by a car. Something would have happened. I'm glad that I went back to the festival because I was only halfway through. It was only Wednesday. I hadn't seen anybody I wanted to see yet, so I'm glad that I went back. Everything got really good after that. I figured out how to dose properly, so I found that 10 milligrams is the correct dose to kind of open up my emotions so that I can communicate better. My brain works properly on 10 milligrams. It doesn't go too fast, but the ideas flow really quick, and I wrote down a lot of things in my book. I might make another video talking about the book more specifically, but I haven't even read it all yet, so I need to go through it and pick out the bits that I can share. But a lot of my ideas were coming and I couldn't slow it down, so I was kind of sitting there watching all these thoughts happen and talking at the same time, kind of communicating them. Here's one that I'll share. I think that we can write with both hands at the same time.
I don't know. I think you can practice to write with both hands the same.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think that the brain can manage to write different sentences.
I think it's possible.
Half brain using. That's crazy.
Either that, or you write with one and draw with the other. Never tried.
I don't know.
But it was one of the ideas I had anyway.
Yeah.
There's more. I will share them probably in another video. This video, I hope it doesn't get demonetized. I'm not on drugs. I'm not taking drugs. I'm not promoting drugs. Just the fact that I said the word drugs 3 times might have flagged it. I don't know. I don't know how this works. Overall, 4-ACO-DMT is it's an incredible substance. I prefer it to mushrooms because you don't get the body low. You have the same energy you would have on LSD, and people don't know much about it. So hopefully I can share some info in the next part. So please let my story be a lesson. Always stay with the trip sitter. Weigh out your doses so you know what you're actually taking. Obviously test your substances. I've left a test kit link in the description. There needs to be more research on 4-ACO-DMT. It's my second favorite drug, second to LSD. So I'm gonna experiment more with it. I want to learn more, share everything I learned. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a YouTuber that likes to talk about psychedelics. So if you have any information or if you've tried it, please leave some comments down below. I would like to get some input. I don't know. I need everyone's brains to work together on this one because I don't know. We don't know anything about it. We don't know what it's capable of. All I know is 10 milligrams is the dose that works best for me. So in mushroom terms, that would be almost a microdose, just above. If you enjoy this trip report, smash like, subscribe for psychedelic content. I'm going to be uploading maybe one more Ozora video, and then I'm moving on to social credit scoring. A video, conspiracy video maybe? It's a bit of a conspiracy video. I'm tired. I'll be responding to all the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one.